The battle ends. But not for everyone. For some, survival doesn't mean freedom. It means capture, disarmed, surrounded, taken. From that moment on, their fate is no longer their own. No clear future. No guarantees. Only uncertainty. Because throughout history, being captured in war didn't just change your life. It decided it. And what happened next is a story rarely told. The fighting slows. Weapons fall silent. And in the chaos left behind, some are still standing, but no longer free. Capture is not a single moment. It's a realization. The moment when a soldier understands that escape is no longer possible. That the battlefield is no longer a place of action, but a place of surrender. Hands are raised. Weapons dropped. Eyes scanning for any chance, any opening, but finding none. From that point forward, everything changes. The enemy is no longer distant. They're close. Watching. Deciding. For captured soldiers, the first moments are filled with uncertainty. What will happen next? Will they be held, moved, treated as prisoners, or something else entirely? There are no answers. Only waiting. And observation. Every movement matters. Every reaction is controlled. Because now, survival depends on something entirely different. Not strength, not strategy, but restraint. Groups of prisoners are gathered together, separated from the battlefield, and placed under guard. The noise of war fades behind them, replaced by a new kind of tension. One that doesn't come from combat, but from the unknown. Because being captured doesn't end the danger. It changes it. The rules are different now. The risks are different. And the future is no longer in their hands. The moment capture is complete. Everything shifts. Not just the situation, but identity itself. Soldiers who once followed commands, fought alongside allies, and moved with purpose, are now stripped of control. Their role changes instantly. They are no longer part of an army. They are prisoners. Weapons are taken. Armor removed. Anything that once represented strength or status is gone. What remains is uncertainty, and the need to adapt quickly. Prisoners are often grouped together, sometimes with familiar faces, sometimes surrounded by strangers. Communication becomes careful, observant, because no one knows what will happen next. Guards take control of movement. Where to stand, where to sit, when to move. Even small decisions are no longer theirs to make. For many, the hardest part isn't physical. It's mental. The sudden loss of control. The realization that survival now depends on following rules set by others. Time begins to feel different. Minutes stretch. Hours slow down. Because without clear information, every moment becomes uncertain. Some prisoners try to stay calm. Others remain alert, watching everything closely. Learning. Adjusting. Because understanding the situation, even slightly, can make the difference. There's no clear path forward. Only possibilities. Transfer. Detention. Exchange. Or something else entirely. And until that future becomes clear, prisoners exist in a state of waiting. Not knowing what comes next. But knowing one thing for certain. Their fate is no longer their own. After capture, the uncertainty doesn't disappear. It settles and becomes part of daily life. Prisoners are moved away from the battlefield, sometimes to temporary holding areas, sometimes to more permanent camps. The journey itself is often quiet, controlled, and closely watched. By the time they arrive, a new routine has already begun to take shape. Life in captivity is defined by restriction. Movement is limited. Space is controlled. Time is no longer measured by personal choice, but by imposed structure. When to wake, when to rest, when to eat. Everything follows a system. And that system isn't designed for comfort. For prisoners, adaptation becomes essential. Some try to maintain discipline, holding on to habits from their past lives. Others focus on observation, learning the patterns of guards, the rhythm of the environment, the unspoken rules that govern survival. Because even in controlled conditions, there are differences. Some moments are quieter than others. Some situations are less strict. And recognizing those small shifts can matter. But the greatest challenge is often internal. The mind. Days begin to blend together. Without clear change, time loses its meaning. The future feels distant. The past feels unreachable. And in between, there is only the present. A present shaped by waiting. Waiting for information. Waiting for change. Waiting for something, anything, to shift. Because in captivity, survival isn't just about enduring the environment. It's about holding on to a sense of self, even when everything around you is trying to redefine it. In captivity, survival is no longer about strength. It's about endurance. Days pass slowly. Routines repeat. And over time, prisoners begin to understand that physical survival is only one part of the challenge. The real struggle is maintaining hope. Because uncertainty never leaves. Some prisoners hold on to the idea of release, through exchange, negotiation, or the end of conflict. Others focus only on the present, avoiding thoughts of the future altogether. Each person copes differently. Some build quiet connections with others around them. Sharing words, stories, moments of normalcy in an environment that offers very little of it. Others withdraw, conserving energy, staying silent, because every action carries weight. Trust is not always easy. Information is limited, and the future remains unclear. Small things begin to matter more. A conversation, a moment of rest, a change in routine. Because in a controlled environment, even the smallest difference can feel significant. Hope doesn't always appear as something strong or certain. Sometimes, it's quiet. A thought. A possibility. Something to hold on to when everything else feels uncertain. But hope can also be fragile. Because not every situation leads to resolution. Not every prisoner sees a clear outcome. And that uncertainty becomes part of survival. Learning to live without answers. To continue without knowing what comes next. Because in captivity, survival isn't just about making it through the day. It's about holding on to something that keeps you going. Even when the future remains unknown. When wars are remembered, the focus is often on battles, strategies, victories, turning points. But the stories of those who were captured are rarely at the center. Because their experiences don't always fit into clear outcomes. There is no single ending, no single path. Some prisoners were eventually released, returned home after long periods of waiting. Others remained in captivity for extended times, adapting to lives far removed from where they began. And some were never heard from again. Their stories lost in the aftermath of conflict. What makes these histories difficult to capture is their uncertainty. The lack of clear records. The absence of complete narratives. Because once someone was taken from the battlefield, their story often continued in places that were never fully documented. And over time, those stories faded. But they were real. Lives shaped not by victory or defeat, but by what happened after. By the experience of losing control. Of adapting to the unknown. Of surviving in conditions that changed everything they once knew. This